Okay, let's go ahead and continue building the airplane. So we have this now. I think at this point it's probably good to start discussing, as we've done in class, how to add wings, which again is a subtopic you remember I could also call how to add a limb to the object. Okay, so here we are. Let's go ahead and we will hide the airplane. As a matter of fact, let's start naming these layers better. Let's call this GB. All right, and I've hidden that, and I'm also going to hide the top view. So there we go. I'm going to choose the side view here. And let's go ahead and look at this. So you can see the section of the wing, and it's a little bit ambiguous in this blueprint, but I would say let's also maybe look at this in combination with the top view to get a better understanding of what's happening here. So if we look at where the actual wing ends, you can see that that is what's showing there on the blueprint, that those lines, if you look at the trajectory, it goes to there, and up in the front, you can see in reality that what's being shown here is a little bit confusing, and that if I trace this line, we're actually in this area of the wing here and not in this. So what you're actually looking at in that view is you're looking at this transition and how it interacts with the body of the airplane. So in reality, this drawing in side view probably should be further back to accommodate for this splaying open area back here. And I'll explain that in some more detail. All right, but at least we now know that the tip of the wing ends back here, and at the front it's more in this area. So I'm going to hide the top view again. We'll go back to our side view. And so now based on that, I'm going to turn back on the airplane real quick. I'm going to select it so you can see. So we're looking at 1 edge, 2 edge, 3 edge, 4 edge, 5 edges to sort of carry me through the shape of that wing. And then if I look at it in other views, I'm probably going to carry over, realistically, I think probably this polygon here and this polygon here. So 2 this way, and then again, so 2 tall, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so it would be 2 by 5. All right, so let's go ahead and select those polygons, and let's do that. So I'm going to hit tab, so we're in the select mode. I'm going to go to face select. I'm going to come in and I'm going to shift select those faces that I was talking about. Okay, now we're going to create a hole in the airplane here to use as a spot to start adding this wing on. I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard, and then it's going to ask me what I want to delete. I'm going to save faces. So there we now have a hole in the airplane. Now we can hide that again because we've done the important part, and the important part for right now was determining how many edges we were going to need. So let's think about that. So it was 2 up, then 5, then 2 down, and 5. So it's 5 and 5, 2 and 2. So that's 10 plus 4. We're going to need 14 edges to define the shape of the wing. So now let's go ahead and we will start to create a custom shape, which we've discussed in class before. And let's go ahead and do that now. I'm going to get out of edit mode, and then I'm going to add, and we'll make a, it really doesn't matter right now which style of curve. And remember, again, as usual, when it does this, it creates one at the default world position. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this 90 degrees. Whoop, let me grab this properly. Okay, and it's got, I turned it 80 on that one. I'm going to type in 90. So there we go. We got to turn 90. And there's what we're looking at here. And we'll remember that that's only so useful, but unlike programs like Maya, this program goes and creates a curve for you right away. So we're going to go into edit mode. So we're going to hit tab again. And now you can see the little handles that make up this piece of the curve. I will go to the move tool, and I can start moving these pieces and start sort of placing them where I want them to be for the beginning of this wing. All right, then on top of that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this, okay, and I'm going to set spline type, and I'm going to change it to poly. The reason I do that is because I want not to look smooth. I want it to look chunky the same way it would be as if we were polygon modeling. So there we have that. So now we have that registered as a poly. I can hit E on the keyboard and E will start to extrude. So I'm just going to roughly place these out. I'll do E again. So we've got 1, 2, 3, right? And I'm going to say extrude again. We'll come out a little more. And extrude again, and we'll come out a little more. I'm going to go a little bit past where we want to go because we want a little bit of a blend there. And you can see these aren't well distributed, but we can go back and fix that afterward. Now vertically we have 2, so I'm going to extrude, but I'm going to leave that pretty small for that rear edge of the plane. Then I'm going to extrude again and kind of start to come back. And then I'm going to extrude again, and we'll start to bring the bottom edge, of the plane here. So that's 1, 2. And then 3, 4 edges, and you can see what I mean. Edges is what I'm counting, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 more edge to kind of carry us up towards the front, and then 1 more to start to define the front there. Okay, and then now to finish this off, we just do this by default using the curve trick. So what we will do is we will right click and we will say toggle cyclic. For the future, you can see the hotkey for that is Alt C. So toggling cyclic, when I do that, you can see what it does is it finishes off that last little edge here, okay? And then I'm going to get out of edit mode. I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to say convert to mesh, because right now it doesn't see this as an object that we can extrude. So by converting this curve to the mesh, I can then start to treat it like an extrudable object. But before I do that, how about we optimize the positions of these a little better? I keep hitting the wrong key and tumbling when I meant to pan. I'm going to select that. I'm going to go into edit mode, and then I will hit 1 on the keyboard. So we are selecting vertices, and I will sort of lay these out a little bit more consistently because they were like big, small, big, small, big, small. And I think maybe we'll distribute those out a little better. We can always do it after the fact too. I'm just showing you that we can optimize the shapes afterward, okay? So there we go. Maybe I'll make that one a little longer and this one a little longer, and then we'll revisit those at the end. I'm going to get back out of here. Once again, I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say, aha, I'm not going to say anything right now because, am I in the wrong mode? No, there we go, convert to mesh. So we're converting to mesh, and I'm going to tumble out of here to see where that's sitting, and you can see it's sitting right at the origin. That's probably not the best place. Let's go to the move tool, and we'll move this out. And now we should probably look at the airplane again. So let's make the GB visible, and you can see where that is relative to the actual airplane body. I'm going to bring that out, all right? And then you can see we could probably rotate this just a little bit to make that more sympathetic to the airplane body a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then we will go to the move tool again, and I will go move on this plane, no pun intended, and move that out. And so now we're making that a little bit more sympathetic to the body. Let's turn on the top view and see how we're doing as far as where this curve ends. And I think we could actually bring this out a bit more. All right. I'm probably going to have to let this be a little smaller over here. We'll adjust that at the end. All right, so right now, I am going to go back into edit mode. So we'll hit tab again. We'll go into edge select. We will select all those edges, and I will hit extrude. And remember my trick again. I'm just going to click, and then we're going to go to the move tool, and we're going to start dragging the wing out from the airplane. And you can see here that the wing is not really optimized yet, and that's the next topic I wanted to talk about. So let's turn off the airplane, let's turn off the top view, and let's look at this in side view now that we can see it. All right, I'm going to go in and add the modifier so we can see what this would look like when it was smooth. I have one issue right now in that this might have a cap on the end. No, we're okay. We're all right. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to add the modifier, and that modifier again is subdivision surface, and I'm going to add a couple of viewport levels to this, and you can see here now what happens with that shape once we smooth it. All right, and you can see that that shape's a little bit hard to see, until we get out of edit mode. All right. So there you can see we're not really in the correct position quite yet. I'm going to bring this forward. And maybe just to make life simple, I will just scale this a little bit. And let's scale it, and then let's move. And we will move this forward, and we are way closer to this shape. This is a really strange shape. I'm not going to follow this too closely because wings are not just square on the end like this. All right, I feel as though this could come a little bit forward and maybe even rotate this a smidge in this view like that, and then go back. What's nice is if you guys can get me somewhere in the zone of this, we're going to be doing great. So here we go, we've got that. I'm going to go back on the viewport subdivision levels because I don't need that for just base modeling right now. Okay, there, I'm just looking at the base mesh. All right. And then now let's bring back the GB. So here's the GB, and you can see we've actually gone a little bit forward of that spot here. I might adjust this or add one more polygon up front here. We'll see maybe how we'll handle that. But let's start by go ahead and we will select both of these objects. We are in object mode. I want that one and this object. To be able to use them in bridging, they have to be the same object. So with that in mind, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to join them, which will make them logically one object. Obviously they're not one object touching, they're just two objects in space, but in the way that the underlying programming happens, it sees this as a single object now. Let's go ahead real quickly, we will go back into edit mode. I might compromise the front of the airplane, just the front of the airplane wing just a little bit to make this a little bit easier for you guys to model. I don't want this to be something that's so technical for you guys at the very beginning here, which I realize could start to happen, so I'm going to relieve the front edge of this just a little bit to make getting this past that a little bit easier to accomplish. And you can see now we are a little bit past. That's not so crazy anymore. All right. So now what we can do is we can go into edge mode, and we will select one of the edges and then the sister edge. So this is 1, 2, 3. So on here that's 1, 2, 3. That's the sister edge. And then we will right click and we will say bridge. Okay. And then we can come around and keep doing this. And it's going to look a little bit bizarre as we're doing this right now because it's in the poly mode that we're in. And we can go ahead and sculpt this at the end. We're not quite at the point of sculpting a lot of this yet. We're just sort of setting the base mesh that we need to have to be able to sculpt this out a little more cleanly. And we're just going to keep selecting those and then selecting the sister edge from the airplane. You can do multiples, like for example, I should be able to select that, and then I should be able to bridge them together. If it ever, I'm showing you the brute force way, where we're just doing them one at a time, but you can do a multiple, but if it messes up, just be aware of it, and then just do them one at a time. Bridge doesn't always work exactly the way you think it should. We got one more to do here, bridge, and there we go. We have attached that to the airplane. So to be able to visualize this now, let's go ahead and let's get out and go back to object mode. All right, I will turn off the side view here, and then in here I will start to add divisions to the geometry. All right, and then on our overlays, where are our overlays? I'm going to turn off wireframe so you can see more of what's going on with the airplane now, and you can see now we have a very nicely sculpted airplane interface. And now, hey now, hit the wrong button. Now what we can do is we can select this. We will go back into edit mode. We will go to edge select. And then remember, if you alt select, it selects the whole loop. And then we could do another extrude E, click, and then move it out. and then we will get into that more in the next video. Alright, but here you go. Now we're starting to get that wing onto that. So remember, again, I call this adding a limb. Right now it's a wing, but it could be anything. If it was a fish, it would be a fin. If it was a human, we could make it an arm or a leg. This particular approach applies to lots and lots of things that you might model. So just because you're not modeling that at this point, it doesn't matter. What I'm doing is working on giving you the skill set, and then from that you can model what you really want to. Alright, we will leave it there for right now, and we will pick this up again. Oh, and don't forget, what do we always do? File save as. Right now we're on number 6. We're going to save this as number 7, and there you go. Save. Alright.